Joining us to start this hour and talk more about what the survey says is the president of the Louisiana Federation of Teachers, Larry Carter. Mr. Carter, good morning, and how are you today, sir?
Good morning, Clarence. How are you today?
I am well. Thank you for asking.
Good.
So what did the survey say about the mood of public school teachers here in the state of Louisiana regarding a possible strike?
Look, we learned that teachers want action, and they want it soon. A lot of the survey questions that we asked were centered around a number of issues. For us, 53% of that hinged around salary.
Mm-hmm.
It topped the list, and discipline with about 40%. Building conditions, like at about 38%. Parental involvement was at 35%.
Mm-hmm.
Teacher evaluations was about 31%, and school safety was at 29%.
Mm-hmm.
But what we found through the survey was, based on the momentum that was seen over the last maybe a month ago, like you just mentioned, in West Virginia, Oklahoma,
Arizona,
mm-hmm. Tennessee,
mm-hmm.
and a few others, teachers and school employees saw that as a way to which they could express some of the concerns they had and some of the actions that they could have employed to actually get those issues that they had resolved. And so it has sparked conversations here in my office by receiving several calls over the last 2 months. And so we wanted to make sure that we weren't just talking about what we thought teachers and school employees wanted.
Right.
We wanted to make sure we heard from them. And so we did the survey, and it received somewhere around 3,800 or so respondents, and it was a self-reporting, from teachers and school employees around the state.
Right.
And so it gave us a picture, a clear picture that there are strong sentiments about issues that impact teaching and learning, but in particular, this particular one was centered solely and around pay raises for employees in the school system.
The survey, it's my understanding, showed that your teachers were largely in favor of taking a number of actions, ranging from protests to walkouts.
That's correct.
Ultimately, what's going to determine what action teachers end up taking?
I think once we start meeting over the summer and then coming into the next school year, we'll have a host of meetings throughout the summer and even during the school year, and we would have to see where most people feel the need and the greatest impact is.
Mm-hmm.
In most cases, when we looked at the survey, 61% answered statewide walkouts.
Wow.
59% said mass demonstrations at the state capitol in Baton Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
And what we also found, which was a little alarming for us, because most people say all politics are local.
Right.
Well, few respondents to a local walkout than the state actions seem to have a lower percentage. So what we found was that teachers, for the most part, understand it's a twofold approach,
mm-hmm.
that there are local revenues, but there's also state revenues.
Right.
And there's what they've seen through the walkouts across the country is that there were legislators, there were governors, politicians who made decisions about how much they got paid, how much education is funded, and the like, and they thought the best approach to dealing with those issues were going to the state capitol, state houses, and lobby for those issues. And so for us, we think that will be something that stands out for us as we look at going into a special session now because of a deficit in the budget and trying to get that budget cleared and fixed,
mm-hmm.
To be able to, fund some of the, things that help, with education and also with all the vital services that our citizens and community members need. And so I think that may be where most of the energies will lie, at the state capitol,
mm-hmm.
with the legislators. So we can't say right now in terms of when that will happen, but we can certainly say there's actions that people are willing to take, and that for the most part they think it really stems from going to the State House.
If it were to come to it, I'm sure you are fully aware that some members of the public are not particularly fond of teachers walking out of the classroom, even if they have a legitimate grievance. If it comes to that, what will you say to the members of the public who don't think it's the right thing to do?
I think if you look at the walkouts that happen across the country, in most cases, teachers and even community stakeholders sought a way to make sure that students remained in classrooms
mm-hmm.
where possible,
right,
where they provided food services, where they provided learning and environments for students even during that walkout. And it was all hands on deck in terms of community partners, parents, and teachers unions, and even faith-based community personnel that actually helped make sure that they understood that that is one of the last things that a teacher or school employee want to do, is to not be in that classroom or not be in that school supporting and serving those students and also the parents.
Knowing that funding for public ed has been frozen 10 times in the last 11 years, and also knowing that our state's fiscal condition is as dire as it's ever been, what would you say to legislators as they get ready today to start another special session to deal with yet another budget shortfall?
Well, if you look at what our survey says, it really speaks to teachers understand that there's some limits they would like to see on some of the businesses' tax exemptions and rebates in order to pay for some of the raises that teachers and school employees and even schools need, or school districts, in order to fund, better quality public education. So that's one thing I know people started saying to us. And then if you look at the local school board level, where you have these industrial tax exemptions, that there's a limited amount of that in order to pay for those raises at the local level, from school boards making decisions to take some of that money that they would usually give for local industrial tax exemptions, and save a percentage of that and allow that savings to really stay within the school district so they can pay for teacher pay raises, maybe some infrastructure repairs, and our textbooks and materials. And so there's at least those two ways in which we can say that, knowing that our budget is in the fix that it's in right now, and they're trying to balance the budget, either some kind of revenue generation would be helpful, and teachers are willing, from what I saw in our survey, to make those sacrifices as well to pay for more services in terms of health care and in terms of policing and fire supports. So we just think it's a number of ways in which that problem can be resolved. We just need our legislators to come together and figure that out for us and with us.
Obviously, finally, President Carter, I know that your entire membership is truly saddened by this latest mass shooting over in Santa Fe, Texas. That being said, and understanding what our fiscal condition is here in Louisiana, how hopeful are you that sometime in the near future you will be able to secure additional dollars to bolster security in public schools across our state?
I think it's coming real soon in terms of enough is enough with these mass shootings, especially in schools and in theaters and any public place, where communities, I think, will come together. I can remember hearing a report by, I believe he was either the sheriff or the police chief, and I think it was Rapides Parish, where he put on the ballot an initiative to increase taxes to be able to afford not just to public schools but also parochial schools, school counselors, meaning police resource officers in schools to protect those schools. And that millage or that tax proposal passed because that community believed that this was a way to protect students, to protect teachers, and to protect the community that was in those buildings at that time. So I think each community is going to have to take that issue up. And then I think it's incumbent upon our governor and our state officials to think about resources that are geared in other areas in terms of education, to look at how to help resource school boards to actually help support them hardening our schools so that they become safer for students and everyone that works inside those buildings.
He is the president of the Louisiana Federation of Teachers, Larry Carter. President Carter, thank you so much for the time, and we'll be checking in with you as the legislative session continues, and hopefully we make some gains for public education.
Thank you so much, and I certainly enjoyed being on your show and look forward to coming back on.
Thank you kindly.